4.2 billion. All right, let that sink in before I tell you the rest. 4.2 billion euros is how much Liberty Media, the owner of Formula One, just paid to acquire MotoGP. Okay, I kind of buried the lead a little bit there, but yes, the parent company of Formula One has just now bought the parent company of MotoGP. And on the surface, they're saying all the right things, right? They're saying MotoGP isn't going to change. Dorna is going to just operate as its own independent entity inside the umbrella of Liberty Media. But we've heard this before, and a lot of people don't really like the direction Liberty Media has taken Formula One and worried they're going to over-commercialize MotoGP in the same sort of way. But it is kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because the whole point of this channel is to grow the sport of MotoGP, to make MotoGP a popular sport so we can get more MotoGP here in America, more races, more bars, more merch, more everything right here at home. And Liberty Media buying into MotoGP, the product, gives us a better chance of doing just that. This kind of reminds me just a little bit of years ago, back in 2001 when the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC. Now back then it was a very small niche sport for just hardcore fight fans, and it wasn't even regulated in most US states. They only paid $2 million to acquire the entire sport, and now today, 20 years later, it's worth almost $12 billion. So as much as Liberty Media wants to say it's just going to be business as usual, same old, you know they're going to be pushing to grow. They want the Zuffa deal. They want to come into the sport small and make it massive. But us hardcore racing fans are begging them not to ruin it along the way. As MotoGP fans, we're gonna be in for a little bit of hurt because, like it or not, the sport is going to change. Will it change a lot? Will it change a little? We don't know. Will it just be a change in marketing, in strategy, in where they race? Maybe we will see some of these historic venues that don't get the butts in the seats the way that other venues do move aside for some newer places to race and get new fans into the sport. But do I think this merger is a good thing or a bad thing? I think it is way too early to tell. I could see the pitfalls. I could see this being a disaster, and I could see this turning off a lot of MotoGP fans. But in a sport like this, in a sport like MotoGP, where it is very expensive to run a race team, it is very expensive to build a bike, and it's hard to get new teams to come in when other teams leave. Because as a company, as a Ducati or a Honda or a Yamaha, you need to see the investment paying off. Yes, you're in it for the wins, you're in it for the trophies, you're in it for the glory, but you're also in it to sell motorbikes. And that can't be a niche business if you're hoping to run in MotoGP year after year. Like it or not, some way, merger or no merger, MotoGP has to grow to survive. And whether you like what Liberty Media has done to Formula One, I don't think you can really argue that Formula One isn't more popular now worldwide than it has ever been. And I know they're influencer fans that get free paddock passes, and they're Drive to Survive fans that don't know anything about the sport. Now, to the corporate boring mergers and acquisitions talk, this all has to go through regulators and be approved to make sure that it's not a monopoly on basically all of motorsports. And just to keep my facts as accurate as possible, it looks like Liberty is only buying 86% of MotoGP, or of Dorna, and 14% will be retained by the executives. But it's important to note that is a controlling stake in the company. They own Dorna. It is their baby now to do whatever they wish with it. So what are the things we can hope to see very, very quickly? I think we might be looking at major sponsorship finding its way into MotoGP. I'm talking about McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Doritos, those kind of companies. Well, I think possibly is this mythical F1 MotoGP Grand Super GP combined weekend they've been talking about for years. The logistics are hard. There's only a handful of tracks in the world that are suited for both motorcycles and cars. And in a weekend where we would see MotoGP and Formula One run at the same circuit, I don't think we'd also see the supporting classes joining them. So no Moto3, no Moto E, no Moto2, Formula 2, all that stuff. They'd probably be somewhere else while MotoGP and Formula One took center stage all weekend long. But out there in MotoGP land, I want to know what you think of all this. And while you're at that, like, follow, share, mash all the buttons so you get all the MotoGP goodness that you can handle.